When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: The Incident, Part 1. User: BeatR3P99. Posted June 26, 2000.
You ever notice how the city paper doesn't list bylines anymore? Budget cuts, they say. Staff shortage. Another thing gutted like the fountains downtown, but I think it's something else. I think we stopped printing names because names remember things, and this city, it's trying real hard to forget. My name's Maya, but you won't find that in ink. Not anymore. I write under M. Vance now, tucked in the back pages below obits and boiler ads like a footnote to someone else's story, and that's fine by me. People underestimate you when they don't know who you are. Makes it easier to go places you're not supposed to, like the museum. Everyone calls it the incident. Real original, right? The official report blamed the HVAC, a ventilation mishap during a private donor gala. 3 dead, 4 hospitalized, names redacted, building closed for evaluation. No investigation, no funerals, and no interviews. Just sealed up like an old mouth full of secrets. Started sniffing around, quiet-like. Talked to a woman who used to run the code room. Said she left early the night of the gala because the air smelled wrong, like wet stone and burnt hair. Said she saw a man crying in the gift shop, just standing there, staring into a snow globe, crying and muttering, "It's inside us now." A few days later, I met a maintenance guy at the Waffle House off Route 29. We split a booth under a buzzing fluorescent. He wouldn't stop chewing the skin off his thumb. Said he wasn't in Gallery 9 that night, but he was nearby. I saw a woman walk out of there, barefoot, he muttered, blood down her chin, smiling. When I asked him why no one had said anything, he reached into his coat and pulled out a matchbook, slid it across the table. The front was blank, but inside, someone had written in shaky ballpoint, "Neil." He didn't stay long, left half his coffee and didn't touch the toast. "Just look under the front desk," he said. "That's all I'll say. Don't contact me again." That was my first real thread. Back at the office, I started digging. Here's what I learned. The museum has no Gallery 9. Floor plans skip from 8 to 10, but I found the name once, buried in a city procurement manifest filed 3 months prior. It listed a delivery. Item description: 1 wooden crate, no dimensions, origin unknown, language unclassified, destination Gallery 9. There was no custom stamp, no tracking number, just a line of jagged symbols burned into the page like the ink had teeth. Next day, I went to the museum. main entrance was chained, but the delivery dock still had power. I jimmied the service door open with a paint scraper and stepped into silence thick enough to chew. Everything inside was covered in tarps. Glass cases stood like tombs. Every placard had been removed. The air felt hollow, like it didn't want to carry sound anymore. I found the security booth, dead wires, cracked monitors, except one. A single black and white feed still glowed faintly. G9 West View. A long hallway, still as death. Then, just for a blink, something moved. Not walked, slid. Like smoke wearing skin. The screen glitched, and then it was gone. I didn't go looking for it, not yet. Instead, I started noticing people who had been there. I saw a man in the courthouse lobby scratching his arms until he bled, whispering something under his breath, all flesh as witness. I saw a woman who used to run a nonprofit for school art programs. She stood in the park at dawn every morning, eyes closed, facing west, smiling. The mayor hasn't been seen in public since the gala. His staff says he's traveling abroad. One city councilman slit his wrists in a fountain outside his own office, and when they pulled him out, his fingernails had been carved with tiny symbols, same ones I saw on that manifest. So I went back to the museum. This time, I searched the reception desk. Underneath, taped to the wood with electrical tape, I found an old photograph folded around a strip of yellowing paper. The photo showed a group of people dressed in black kneeling before a display case. Their eyes were weeping dark streaks. The note read, "Do not face it, do not kneel, do not speak its name." It was written in red ink. Blood, maybe. I shoved it in my pocket and moved down the hall, past the donor plaques, past the exhibit wings, until I found it. Gallery 9. No sign, no door handle, just a seam in the marble where light refused to reflect. I put my hand on it and felt a low hum vibrate through my wrist. My nose started bleeding. I backed away fast. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the photo, studied every face. Then I noticed something. The angle of the shot. It was a reflection in the glass of the case, a shape, tall, thin, bent at the center like it was bowing too. It had no face, just smooth skin where features should have been, but there were grooves, circular, like something ancient was coiled beneath. I flipped the photo over. Someone had scribbled on the back, "We don't forget, it remembers." The next morning, I woke up with a smear of dirt on my pillow and a faint ring of bruises around my knees. I don't sleep now. I just sit at my desk and write. Police won't return my calls. The museum board has dissolved. The archives room at City Hall was closed due to mold. People who speak up vanish. But I still have the matchbook, the photo, the name, and I'm gonna find out the truth.
Subject, morning, stranger. User, UND0XP. Posted, September 9th, 1996.
They say rock bottom's where you stop digging, but I didn't stop until I was buried. I had a wife once, 2 daughters too, little pink boots by the back door, crayon drawings on the fridge, the whole Norman Rockwell life if you squinted. I wasn't perfect, but I was theirs. And then the drinking hollowed me out. What started as a stress relief turned into missing birthdays and mornings I couldn't remember. My wife would speak softly, never yelling, just asking me to try, and I'd lash out like it was her fault I hated who I'd become. My girls learned to keep quiet. One morning, the older one flinched when I reached for the syrup. I never raised a hand, but fear doesn't always need fists. By the time I got sober, it was too late. My wife left, took the girls, moved up north somewhere, and I never found out where. I wrote letters, left messages, holidays came and went with nothing but silence. I stayed sober anyway, one day at a time, like they say. I sat in folding chairs in church basements, held coins in my hand like lifelines. I listened, I spoke, I worked the steps, I prayed to my higher power like my life depended on it because it did. I talked to him every morning before the sun came up. Not for things, I'd given up on asking for that, just to say I was here, that I was trying. Sometimes that was the only thing I could say honestly. Then, one morning, I woke up as someone else. And look, I don't mean metaphorically. I mean, I was not me. Not in my body, not in my life. I opened my eyes in a room I'd never seen, beneath a ceiling with floral wallpaper. My hands were thinner, wrists covered in bracelets. I sat up and looked around. There were family photos on the wall, strangers grinning back at me like I belonged. I caught my reflection in the mirror, and it was not me. Not the man I used to be, not the one I'd worked to become. I stumbled outside, hoping for a street name, a clue. A man across the road waved and called me Gordy, said his wife would be by later with pie. I nodded like I understood and went back inside. I sat on the couch until nightfall, thinking maybe I was dreaming. Then I drunk again somehow, and this was what relapse felt like. But the next morning, it happened again. New body, new house, new town. This time, I was someone named Leo in Arizona. My face was heavier and I had a limp. People knew me. I had a job, a dog. The calendar said 1987. And then, again and again. Sometimes I'm a man, sometimes a woman. Old, young, sick, healthy. Once I woke up with a wedding ring and a baby crying in the next room. Another time I was on a fishing boat off the Gulf, my hands calloused from work I don't remember doing. Once I woke up in a hospital bed, IV in my arm, body eaten by something I couldn't name. The nurse called me Father Andrews. I don't think that body lasted long. I felt it pulling apart before the end of the day. There's no pattern, no warning. I fall asleep and roll the dice on who I'll be next. I've stopped trying to fight it. I've stopped asking why, but I haven't stopped praying. Because here's the truth. I asked for this. Maybe not in words, but I begged my higher power to make me useful, to make me better. I asked for the chance to do good, even if no one ever saw. And now, maybe this is the answer. Maybe this is service in its strangest form. Each morning, I get a new shot, a clean slate. I don't know who I am, and I don't know who I want to be, so I make coffee. I talk gently. I leave kindness where I can. I put the cart back at the grocery store. I say thank you. I listen more than I speak. Sometimes I go to meetings. Yes, even like this. Sometimes I hear stories that sound like mine, told from mouths I've never seen before. Pain wears a lot of faces. One woman shared about writing letters to her mother every month for 15 years, even though they never got a reply. Said she kept writing anyway because love doesn't expire just because it's unreturned. I nodded so hard I thought my neck would snap. And I write, always write. Notes in the margins of spiral notebooks, messages on mirrors, stories on old typewriters. I leave them in jacket pockets and glove compartments, just in case someone else wakes up like this one day and needs to know they're not alone. I keep hoping that one morning I'll wake up back in my old skin, in that lonely apartment with the sticky floors and the Bible by the bed, that maybe, just maybe, this was all a long, strange detour toward redemption. But it's been months now, maybe longer, and I don't know what day it is anymore. The years blur together when you're unstuck in time. Sometimes I wonder if I've already seen my daughters, if maybe I've crossed paths with them in a bus station or passed them in a grocery store wearing someone else's smile. Would I even recognize them now? Would they recognize me? I like to think they're doing okay. I like to think the last piece of me they remember is one worth forgiving, but even if that's not true, I can still do the next right thing. Because this strange endless loop might just be a gift. A lifetime ago, I'd lie to my sponsor about how I was doing. I'd smile and say, "Fake it till you make it, buddy. You don't have to believe it yet, you just have to act like someone who does." Well, I don't know who I am, but I act like someone who's trying, because that's all I've got left. I don't know if I'll ever be forgiven by the people I hurt. I don't know if I'll ever see my daughters again, but I still believe there's meaning in showing up, even as a stranger, even if I'm the only one who knows. So I show up. I show up as Leo, as Gordy, as whoever the universe hands me that day, and I try to live like someone worth loving. My name changes, my face changes, but I'm still here, one day at a time.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.